Perfect. Thank you, Catherine. All right. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I am here with my good friends Sandy and Karen and Catherine and Marjorie. And today we are going to be talking about Tao Te Ching Verse 72 as interpreted by Wayne Dyer in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, and chapter 72. But before we get going, I wanted to just get a little bit of things out of the way. One, if you're watching this as a recording, you can catch all of the rest of our recordings by going to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. And if you want to participate with us, you can find instructions for how to join us next week by going to zoom.SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That has the link to get you in the Zoom meeting and the ID and all of that kind of thing. And of course, all of that information will be below this video on our YouTube channel. And be sure to like the video, subscribe to us, share it with anybody you think will be finding it interesting or helpful. And then, okay, so let's get the discussion going. Well, first, let's introduce ourselves. So, hey guys, everybody jump out and say hey and where you are, and then we'll talk.
Good morning, it's Catherine in Boulder, Colorado. Looking forward to today's verse.
We can't hear you, Marjorie, if you were talking. I saw your lips moving now.
Oh, well, that's good. My name is Marjorie, and I'm from Massachusetts, and good morning.
Good morning. I'm Karen Lohoff from the Valley of the Sun, and it's already heating up out here. Catherine, I'm looking at your gorgeous picture from my little notification down here at the bottom. I just see your name otherwise, and I'd love to see you. I just want to mention that a couple of times this week I have talked about how much we love each other on this call. And I am on a couple of other mastermind calls, and it's just so fabulous to feel so free and open, and I think you're going to love it. So get busy and join us. Thanks. There's Catherine.
Did we lose you, Sandy? Are you still there? There you are. We can't hear you. There you go. Now I hear you.
I'm not awake yet. Okay. Sandy Root here in Miami Beach, Florida. Just got my cup of coffee, so I'm going to wake up soon. Good to see you all again.
Awesome. Karen, God love you. You keep saying you want to see Catherine, but we want to see you. I can't help it. I have to say that. Okay, so anyway, let's read this first verse here. And yeah, it looks like oh, okay, no, it's not. All right, so who wants to read it? Can everybody see it?
I'll read.
Okay.
When people lack a sense of awe, am I on the right page? Sorry.
Yes.
When people lack a sense of awe, there will be disaster. When people do not fear worldly power, a great power will arrive. Do not limit the view of yourself. Do not despise the conditions of your birth. Do not resist the natural course of your life. In this way, you will never weary of the world. Therefore, the sage knows himself, but makes no show of himself, loves himself, but does not exalt himself. He prefers what is within to what is without.
Thank you, Sandy. So, guys, what are your first thoughts on this verse? What was the first thing that came into your head?
Oh, how about? Well, I'm just reading this for the first time, but as I was reading it, what popped out to me is when it says, when people do not fear worldly power, a greater power will arrive. It reminded me of the Paris Agreement this week, how a lot of people in the US who don't agree with what happened are stepping up and pulling, going to do the right things for climate change, like businesses in the US and big names are going to continue with the agreement. So, it's like stepping away from that power, the worldly, the US power, or whatever it is, to go into this greater power, and that, that can't stop us. And if, any fear that we have towards the powers that be, it would squash our power. But if we're pushing forward for what we know is right, there's something greater is going to come. So I believe that. So that's my first thoughts.
You want to jump
I
out,
thought,
Marjorie? Yeah.
oh yeah, sorry, just making sure I was not muted. I love this verse. I mean, at first like Sandy said, the worldly power, I started thinking about, well, basically I just love the entire verse. I mean, I guess the idea of, do you have a sense of awe about everything in life or not? The idea, if you lack that sense of awe, that there's going to be disaster. That made me think. I mean, that caught that just caught me right away, and I started thinking about how, if you don't appreciate what you have around you, that is disaster, because you're not really, I guess, living in the present moment and recognizing how beautiful the world really is, and how, beautiful nature is, and that sense of awe, and disaster comes from that, because people aren't really truly living, is the way I thought about it. And the whole idea of not fearing worldly power, and then a greater power will arrive. It took me a minute a little bit to think about it, and I thought, what I really got from it is that the greater power is the power within you, the power of life, the power of creation, the power of God. And that when people don't fear worldly power, I thought more of that as not fearing life, that we know of it as that kind of worldly power, like money, making our ends meet, that kind of worldly power of like the grind and the toil of our daily life. When you don't fear that, and instead the greater power within you comes out and arrives, I mean, I thought, oh wow, that's what I want. And then the rest of it was just beautiful, not limiting the view of yourself. I mean, a lot of it was so obvious. It was just inspiring, not despising your condition of your birth, not resisting the natural course of your life. I mean, that is living in the present moment. And then and in that sense, never getting tired of the world, because you don't get defeated. You don't get lost in, the struggle. And then the last part is just beautiful too, knowing yourself. I mean, when I think of the sage, the word, so I just think of that means me. That means us. We're sages, right? It's not talking about him and the classic teachers and the masters. That you know yourself, you don't make a big show about yourself, you're humble, you love yourself. I think self-love is really important, like the basis of what we all need, because love is the most powerful force in the universe. And if you don't even love yourself, I'm sorry, you're like working behind you're working with your hands tied. And not exalting yourself, just being grateful and humble, and always preferring what is within to what is without, because if you don't have what is inside, that's the most important thing. I really don't think you're anything. you just got to keep working on what's within, so that you can manifest outside what is without, the things that other people may view more important, money or status of your possessions and such. But I really feel that what is within is the most beautiful part that people get drawn to, really your soul and your heart. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. This is better than talking about warriors and fighting weapons. I mean, I relate to it easier. So thank you.
How about again? Yeah, it's a great verse. There's so much in it, actually. There's a lot of wisdom in it. And yeah, I really like the line too, do not resist the natural course of your life. Because I think, yeah, it's easy to resist things, and especially when we think something's negative or bad, people tend to withdraw or just maybe ignore those things. And but when we accept our life, with everything, the ups and downs and everything, that's like, yeah, you can't grow weary. It's like those are miraculous too, like all the ups and downs. And that's where you learn to love yourself too, is when you're going through the natural course of life and encountering different things. It's always a gift. Everything, when we look at everything as a gift, and like you were saying, Marjorie, like being grateful and appreciating things, you can't ever grow weary, because there's always a gift and always learning, and more love for yourself always. And like you were saying, just being humble too. And then I like that part, he prefers what is within to what is without, because that's where everything is within. When you really look within, that's where you know everything, and you learn everything when you look within, and that manifests into your without. So if you start within, then your external is a reflection of that too. So you just can't ever get weary, because it's it's actually fun, all of it. Even the bad stuff.
Yeah, that was my thought, was that that one line could have been the whole book, is do not resist the natural course of your life. That's like the end of all suffering right there. That's really all that needed to be said. But I love the rest of the verse too.
I love what you brought up at the beginning, Sandy, when you're talking about the people not fearing the worldly power and then empowering themselves. I love that, And when I first read this, I was so caught up in that first line, I didn't even catch that, which is funny, because that's the reason we get on here, is so we can have those insights we would otherwise not have if it's just us reading this. And but I love that, because we've talked so many times about stepping away from, or getting away from, all these expectations that we have for ourselves, for our lives, they're like worldly beliefs of what you ought to be, what success equals, all of those things. And when you can step away from that worldly power, if you will, or those worldly beliefs, or those worldly ideas of what success is, or what hard work means, what money and things like that, like Margie was saying, is that we can actually become empowered by living our true self, becoming what we really were meant to be. And I mean, I just love that. I can't tell you how many things that I have experienced in my life just because I let go of what I thought I was supposed to do, and that's a huge thing. And particularly if you have a calling within yourself that says, okay, I really want to go do this thing, and everybody else in your family or around you is going, no, you shouldn't do it, because you need to be realistic. You need to get your head out of the clouds. You need to do this, that, and the other. And then, but if you follow your heart, if you quit resisting what you want to do, then wonderful things happen. And it's awesome. I love that. That line that says, do not limit the view of yourself. When we are following these worldly ideas of what we ought to do or should do, then we're limiting ourselves, right? But I'll tell you what I was thinking when I first read this, the first line that says, when people lack a sense of awe, there will be disaster. And, you know, how many disaster movies are based on that line right there? You know, I mean, we lack a sense of awe when it comes to the environment, when it comes to nature, animals, all these things. There's all these movies made about, you know, when we try and manipulate the genes of creatures and then they turn on us and all hell breaks loose. I mean, I picked this one image for the background of our verse because it kind of spoke to that little aspect of this verse, was that, you know, there's this sense of awe when you see all these awesome and amazing creatures like in the water, but yet one little thing could break that glass and all hell would break loose, right? You know, but I think that when we think that we have control, we're deluding ourselves. And I think that's what it's trying to tell us is, in that, at least that part of it, is that we need to realize there's a greater power at work here, and we aren't the ones that are in control, and we need to quit resisting so that we can go with the flow of what our lives are supposed to do. And then everything is so much more wonderful because we're allowing our true selves to come out and express themselves in this world, and it's just better. I don't know, that's my thought so far.
I've had so many things come up from this weekend and even this morning that ties into this verse. Catherine had shared with me Matt Kahn and his partner, Julie Dittmar. I don't think she mentioned her, but I've had them now kind of, they'll come at the top of my Facebook, and I don't go to Facebook real often, so I had an accumulation of about 5 of their posts this morning, and it was around, or at least one of them was around, chronic illness. And I started a couple of books in May, and I made a commitment to write a 10,000 word book in 30 days, and so I've been really beating it. I don't know if that doesn't seem like very much. It maybe doesn't, but for me that was quite extensive. And I decided that what I really needed to do was to write a book around my bipolar, I guess, observations. For me, I've seemed to have a set of episodes every 10 years, and it's now another 10 years, and it had come to my attention that I might need to keep a lookout on the horizon. And I was realizing how much I have put into my life. I loved what Marjorie said. I'm gonna, when we get that on YouTube, I'm going to take the transcript and I'm going to pull some of those words out, because she talked about not getting lost in the suffering. And it's easy for people with chronic conditions, at least it is for me, I'll speak for myself, to feel like you're really lost in the suffering, and to kind of tick off time and say, oh, I need to watch out and all this kind of stuff. When one of the things that I've realized is, by stopping being exclusive, and this is what I mean, what Samantha was talking about, when you have family and friends around you and they kind of see you a particular way and think you should be doing a particular thing, and that's not at all what you have in mind for your path, you're really breaking away from an exclusivity that others would assign to you. And it's the the opposite of that word. It's for me, it's the bringing in of so many sources. I just find the World Wide Web for me is just a playland of incredible mentors and teachers and exemplars that I really, really appreciate. And I love the line, do not limit the view of yourself. I mean, I know I reference this a lot and it must be really gaggy, and I apologize, it gags me too, but I remember so much looking at my grandmother and admiring her so much. I mean, just living a simple life, willing to spend her time with a wooden ball representative of the heel of the foot and taking an old sock and just darning that damn thing for hours. You know, you take a hole in a sock and you darn that, it takes forever. And when I get snagged up on my computer because, like, for this morning it wouldn't load up Zoom, I mean, I have so little patience. I want things to be zip, 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 zip. And I don't know what it is, but I relate to her and I think, I'm too old. That's my problem. I'm too old. But the real truth is, I, I'm just who I am. I'm not too old. I'm not too young. I'm not too whatever. And I just need to break out of that and not limit the view of myself. Thank you.
Love it, Karen. I'm so glad you like Matt and his partner. I can never remember her name. That's why I don't bring her up. Matt is easy for me to remember. But he has that book, Love What Arises, or Love What Arises, I think, or Love Everything That Arises. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, it's good. And it puts, I've followed a lot of different spiritual guides, teachers, and things. And Matt brings humor to spirituality, which is something that is sadly lacking. Some of them are so very, very serious. And I can tell you that God has a sense of humor. And so I enjoy having humor in spirituality. And humor and the ability to accept what is why I do not suffer. I am in pain 24/7, my body, but I do not suffer. And that is why, is because I can't, first of all, I know a lot of people that are way worse off than me, number one. And, even though this body has this pain and stuff, when I evaluate my life, when I look at where I am right now, when I look at what I'm doing on a daily basis, when I look at the people that I am sharing space with almost 24 hours a day, which is why you don't see me on camera much anymore, because I'm barely sleeping, and believe me, no sleep shows on me. But I am absolutely, like, right here in this moment, if I look around at my surroundings, there's just, my life is beautiful, guys. Like, there's so many things in my life to be grateful for. The pain is insignificant. It does limit me, and I do continue to, find things that help and do things to broaden my possibilities. But when I compare my life now to my life before my accident, I can see why God knocked me off the back of that horse, because I was on a freight train to misery, basically, and now, like, my entire life has changed. Just working with people around the world now, instead of working with just one person one-on-one, not to say that we don't need the one-on-one, I'm not saying that at all, but I just have such a broader scope, a broader reach. I'm learning and interacting with people of different cultures, which is really broadening, my experience, even though I'm here in bed behind a computer, so I just, if you can just be patient long enough to let God show you why shit is happening, you'll be fine,
Appreciate you bringing up that, that you are struggling with the pain and the constant pain that you have for ever since your accident, and that you aren't suffering, but you are in pain, and yeah, that's a huge thing with so many people, is they will take one thing that has happened to them at some point in time in their life, and they will just grind on that forever and be this victim of whatever that is and cause themselves so much misery because of it. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to make yourself miserable because of one little thing that's happened to you or happening to you. I mean, for example, the folks that, the difference between the person who becomes paralyzed and makes everybody in their life, as well as themselves and everyone around them, miserable for the rest of their existence, or that same kind of a person who has that same accident happen, who goes on to inspire the world. I mean, look at the difference. It's huge. And you can choose. You have the complete choice to choose whether whatever that is happening to you is going to make you miserable, or whether it's going to make you a better person or make you happy, or whatever. And I mean, it's like this whole thing, with the economy crashing back in 2008. And we, my husband and I, we lost our trucking company, we lost our houses, we lost our cars, we were financially ruined. It went through bankruptcy, foreclosure, everything. And, I could have looked at that and suffered from it forever, being upset about everything that we lost, or I could do what I've done, which is, take that as I'm glad we got rid of all that and we simplified our lives, and now things are so much easier. And you can look at it in any way you want. I lost everything, or I've gained everything. I mean, I've learned from a lot. I mean, that was a great teacher, financially as well as just life and how to deal with things. I mean, and I certainly feel for people who have gone through that kind of a thing, but I also am like, why make it more miserable than what it was? And I can't tell you, I mean, I had a lot of stress in my life when we had all that stuff, and the multiple houses and the multiple businesses and all these people working for us and everything else. It was very stressful. And I remember thinking, even when I was in the midst of that, gosh, I wish I just had a little Walmart job with no responsibilities, And, it's funny though, because if we look at our lives and we go, well, what you wish for, I don't work at Walmart, but, but it is funny, I wasn't appreciating when we had it. I was upset and frustrated with it. And so the world was like, oh, okay, well, smack, you don't need that anymore. And when I lost everything, I was like, oh, okay, this is so wonderful. Now I can do something with my life. I don't know, it's silly, but, but there was a lot of pain involved with that, but I didn't wallow in it. There was a few minutes where I was like, oh, but, once I started to embrace that and then see what direction our lives were going to go, everything just has become better. And I don't regret any of that. I mean, the experience of doing it all and the business and everything else and the attitudes that I had back then, now here we are going into new business, and I know there's going to be new responsibilities, and there's going to be a lot of that, I don't want to say stress, but I want to say just a lot of responsibility into it. But I'm going into it with such a completely different attitude because there for a while I was resisting this possibility of of all this extra responsibility. But then, I started to embrace it, and things are just going wonderfully. And I know, it's so silly, right? It's just so silly. You sit here and you think you have these things you're supposed to do, and then you like force yourself to do these things you're supposed to do, and then you're all upset about it, and then the world changes, your life changes, and then you start to embrace everything that's happening to you in your life, and then wonderful miracles start to happen. It's just crazy. It's just, I don't know. That's my thoughts.
I'm reminded of this every day because there's always something every day, but I think this goes with what we're talking about, Samantha, and this verse. And I have a friend who she goes to the Kabbalah Center here. So I've been going to some of the classes with her for the Zohar. And it's like every time I go, it's like exactly what I need to hear. It's so amazing. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea like that these teachings, it's just more of those teachings that are accessible in our time to all people. And it's like amazing stuff. So there's this, in Hebrew, it's called tamim. Tamim, I'm not even saying it right, but it means simple acceptance. And I'll just read some of my notes from that night because I think it goes along this, and simple acceptance with anything that happens in your life. It's a state of being plain or natural when allowing something to happen, rather than pondering or investigating or researching and analyzing. And how when maybe something goes wrong in our life or something doesn't make sense, like we'll start to really ponder. And I know for myself, like it reminds me of the breakup I went through a few months ago. It was like I just couldn't accept it. It was like constantly analyzing this and that, what he did, what I did, and pondering and like, well, what went wrong and blah, 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 and driving myself nuts. So this simple acceptance is like, even when you have this, it's like a disconnection from the light of the Creator or God or whatever you want to call it. But all of it's from the light. And so if you're in simple acceptance and you're allowing this process to come through, because that's what the light wants for you, that's what is coming for you, to accept that. And then once you accept that, it's like the miracles come, and then you figure out what to do, and you realize that it was the perfect thing to happen, like you were saying, like you realize down the road when you look back, like everything that has happened, all the challenges, all the things that we think were, well, that's totally wrong, that's not supposed to be my life, like when we look back, it's like, oh yeah, that was supposed to be my life. And so being with acceptance of everything the Creator puts in our life, whether it's pain or something emotional overcome, or like you were talking about, Karen, like the bipolar or spiritual or anything, that if you accept that, whether you like it or not, it's like then the miracles start to happen. And then there was a quote, like they suggested, when anything happens that we're maybe resisting, that you say to yourself, what I'm going through right now is exactly what the Creator wants me to go through. So when you accept that, and then that's when, like they call it like a concealed light, when we're sort of fighting it or resisting it, it's like the light is concealed. But if we accept it and really truly accept it without, questioning or doubting what's happening, or, analyzing and pondering so much that, then you see the gifts from it when you really just simply accept everything. So I love it. It's like a great reminder every day. So.
I was going to say that I was thinking about what Karen had said about that yourself, and not to, looking for the line here, not to limit the view of yourself. Just I'm always on a spiritual path, and it's just like Karen says, you're always looking for like new sources of inspiration online. I'm on Facebook a lot, and I just looked up Matt Kahn because you mentioned him, Karen, and I was like, oh wow, this looks awesome. But I just read something recently, and I think we all know this, but it really transported me, which is that when we know who we really are, the power within us, that infinite power within us, because we really are God. We really are equal to Jesus Christ. I mean, that is truly what is within us, and that is truly what our real, I wouldn't even say a view, that's really who we are. And we reach that level, that's the level I want to reach. That will just blow everything away. So no, we're not this little miserable human being in the third dimension sitting at home, on a Zoom. We're really powerful beings. We're like infinite. We are created this way, and we are ageless. We're old, yes. We're like, many, many, many lifetimes. So I'm 63. I'm like, wow, that does seem kind of old, but that's really nothing. That's like in the heaven world, that's the blink of an eye, that lifetime that we're living right now here on Earth. And we think we're so old, 63 or whatever. That's a blink of an eye. Like, we just got born. In the heaven world, they cry when you leave, because that's your natural home. You're born here on Earth for another sojourn, another lifetime here, and another mission, another chance to accomplish what you came here to do. But this lifetime is truly a blink of an eye, and then when you die, you're just going home. And then, heaven welcomes you with joyous, yay, you're back, like, and everybody else on earth is crying because you're dead in the hospital bed or whatever. I'm like, oh, big deal. I mean, I don't fear death at all. And but I realize I came here to do something. And I'm still waking up to it. I'm still trying to make it happen. I'm trying to be brave about what my mission is. And so that's a lot of my energy spending. And sometimes I feel like I'm still searching. I'm still looking for ways to help myself, like joining with all of us, and sharing on Saturday mornings, and focusing on these beautiful verses, and doing everything else I can find. And I kind of laugh at, well, I'm supposed to be in an online business, doing what I'm doing to, as my occupation. And it doesn't really feel that, honestly doesn't. I mean, I want to do it. I love it. I enjoy it. I want to share it with people, but it doesn't feel like it's taken over my whole life. Like, my whole life is more than just that. And so it's trying to balance and do the things that I know are really, really good for me. And it's getting to the point really that, like, I love the Beatles. I love George Harrison. He's my favorite Beatle. He's a Pisces. I love Pisces. So it's in an interview, he says, it's so important to know who God is. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm focusing on. Because if I know God, then I know myself. I know the true reason I'm here and who I really am, and all of that, all of that I'm searching for. And so that I have to have that. I have to have that spiritual searching every day, because I feel like that is more real than anything else. That's the real food and sustenance that we have. I mean, we need to do the other things too. We need to be with people. We need to go out and, make money and pay bills or whatever, take care of our daily life here. But to me, that's not the real important thing. I have to be practical, and I am very practical. Not to say I'm really like organized, but it's the searching. It's being here with you all and sharing and stuff that to me is more important than everything else. And yet life has to be a balance. So I just wanted to share that for Karen. And it was Catherine that talked about suffering, not me. So thanks.
63? Thought you were like 43. Oh my God. Wow.
Well, that is what having spirit does for you. Well, we really are ageless. I mean, you look beautiful, Sandy. Everybody here is beautiful, really. So, and I think that's the thing, is like, you got to look at life in that high level. And I think that's partly what the verse was talking about, right? Let me find it again. When people lack a sense of awe, there will be disaster. And to me, a sense of awe could be about anything, Mother Nature. But I think the sense of awe is about ourselves. Think about yourself. I mean, when you think of the level of like how, there's no boundaries within you. When you think of that as like, wow, that is me, then, and then you're losing it if you don't focus on that about yourself. I think that's a disaster. I think that's a disaster when you're living here in life. You've got this lifetime and you're not doing anything with it except spinning your wheels. That's how I feel sometimes with myself. Because what I've learned from all my spiritual searching is this lifetime is so amazing. This time here on Earth, we're like at the Olympics, it's the finals, we're going to burst through, and I'm talking about Mother Earth, the universe, the dimensions, ourselves. We're rising higher and higher, and we got all this support. We got the internet, like Karen says, you can find everything and all that food for yourself. And just what we're doing today, so there's all that support for us to, as I say, go through evolution, ascension. We're breaking through, all these sources we have, Sandy, I know you do all your, all the, new age type therapies that you do. Catherine's like an empath and like, can fly around the world and astral travel. I mean, I'm just telling you guys, this is like awesome, right? This is awesome. Like the life that we're leading, it just wasn't happening decades ago. And I even remember back hearing about the harmonic convergence in 1987, I think it was. God, that seems like it's taken so long for us to progress. And here it is like 40 years later, and we still haven't like broken through totally, but we're there, we're on the verge. And that's what I hold dear to myself. And that's why I think it's so important to keep doing that work, that spiritual work, because it's it's really the only real thing. That's how I see it. That's the only real thing, and that gives me more joy than anything else. So, all right, I think I've talked long enough. Thanks for listening.
I wanted to read a little section in the chapter that Wayne Dyer wrote about having a sense of awe. He says, the reason it's crucial to have a sense of awe is because it helps loosen the ego's hold on your thinking. You can then know that there's something great and enduring that animates all of existence. Being in awe of that something staves off disasters because you have no worldly fear of conditions. No fear of worldly conditions, excuse me. You're kept grounded in the otherworldly power that manifests a trillion miracles a second, all of which are oblivious to your ego. The 72nd verse of the Tao Te Ching also asks you to accept yourself and your individual concerns. With 3 very emphatic suggestions, Lao Tzu tells you to avoid self-limits, accept your body as a perfect creation, and allow your life to unfold in accordance with its own nature. I just love that. I love reading what Wayne's messages are, and I'm so thankful that he was with us for all those years and able to provide us with such amazing insights into life and life experience and just, I mean, even the Tao Te Ching, it's wonderful. But anyway, I wanted to read that. I thought that was good. And Marjorie, you said something that I wanted to comment on, and now I completely forget. It slipped out of my head, so I'll come back to it.
That's funny. I was going to read that part too. I love that paragraph you read from Wayne. But yeah, when you were talking, Marjorie, about that being in awe of yourself, I find I had a moment this week where I was meditating, and I think meditation is a great way to learn to be in awe, because you're just silent and you're more perspective of yourself, of what's going on inside of you and what's going on around you. And there was a moment this week where I was just like amazed by how our bodies breathe. Like what happens when that moment when you're born and it's like, you take that breath and it just continues for the rest of your life. This breathing being, and that our heart, its heart just keeps pumping and pumping and pumping for all these years by itself, and we don't even have to think about it, and just all the miracles that go on in our bodies. I mean, that alone, it's like, it just boggles my mind sometimes. I'm like, wow, these are amazing, amazing bodies. They're miraculous, and I think that's why I'm in the health medical field, because I just was, in acupuncture school, just in awe of the body and the energy that we have in the body, and how you can manipulate that. And, and that's why I love Kundalini yoga and all these things that I practice. It's just that it goes into that being within yourself, really getting to know yourself and being in awe of what you and your body and spirit and everything inside of you can do. It's just, there's always a new level where it's just like, wow.
Come on, Karen, you got something to say.
Well, I know you talked about suffering, but I can tell you that when we get that transcript out, Marjorie, there's a line in there where you say you don't get lost in your suffering. And it meant the world to me because I was thinking about that, you know, how many years I've gotten lost in my suffering. And, you know, I do think this is just amazing when you think about yourself with a sense of awe. I apparently was humbled a lot as a child because I certainly wasn't allowed to, you know, get out of bounds with thinking about myself. In fact, I think I've mentioned this another time. I remember standing next to my father at church one day when a man was talking to him and said, you know, your daughter's just beautiful or lovely or something like that. And my father said, well, we don't want her to get a big head. And of course, you know, first of all, he was a man, which kind of, you have to excuse a lot, I think, because, you know, none of us are trained really how to help others feel that much better. But I think men in general are kind of in that mode of keeping everyone from getting arrogant and, you know, outside their bounds. And my father was 35 years older than me, which, and I'm the oldest child. So that was, I guess I'm just really giving him excuses. But one of the thoughts that I had while I was thinking about writing this book was, since I have been catfished, I've been really wondering where the hell how did I manage all these years to attract to myself, in truth, only silent men? And I don't know if everyone understands what that is, but you know, what I mean by that, and there's lots of ways, of course, to explain that, but I'm talking about people who won't disclose themselves. In my view, there's no point in being a relationship with someone who's not unwilling to disclose themselves to you. However, a lot of people don't know how to do that because they've never disclosed themselves to themselves. You know, when you look at having a sense of awe about who you are, I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, it has literally taken decades of self-reflection to be able to kind of get down in there and, you know, swim in the depths and be able to see the shining, you know, of the glitter, the, you know, the gems, the good stuff. And I had no idea. I just had no idea until that experience that every man I had ever drawn to me was someone who would not disclose himself to me in one way or another. And it's amazing the variations of that. And it just says to me, there's just a whole lot of folks that don't know who they are, don't have a sense of awe about who they are, who limit the view of themselves. I sing to my little poopies, which is my little puppies. And right now I just have one. but she is so unusual to me. We never had a dog like this, and we've never had a puppy like this. She's a basset hound, and she, those ears are so long. I mean, I've got very long hair, and I know how it is to try and lift myself off the pillow, and I have hair under my elbow, and I'm, this is painful. um, but the only songs really I know, the words that I only know are To Lullaby and You Are My Sunshine. And I know You Are My Sunshine because my father and I sang it on a 35-mile run back to town from a ranch that we had, and it was often just the two of us, and we would sing it over and over and over. And I think about that, and I think how difficult it was for him. I mean, he refused to ever speak about his childhood. And I think how difficult for him if he were to look at this verse and say, you know, I have a sense of awe about myself. He wouldn't even have an idea. Well, he does now that he's on the other side. But it's so important, I think, that we do spend the time here, Marjorie, on Saturday morning. What a great idea to come here and share and look at these verses and gain the insights that we can. Thank you, Samantha, over and over and over for the opportunity.
I was going to say, Karen, that part of what I've been reading lately for spiritual support is the constant reminder that we are all one. It's a morphic field. We're in it all together, and we're all sharing the same field, and so we lift each other up, and so we're all connected, so we're all one. And so what you're feeling is, like, I'm crying now too. What you're feeling is what we're feeling. So, and I think for your dad, that idea that he couldn't get to that sense of awe is maybe because he was never really taught to really think on that level, that we are divine beings. That's what we really are. That's who we are. And so we all have to tap back into that, and you know, just know that, that that's who you really are. It's not this body that you have right now. It's not this lifestyle you have right now, or where you're living or anything. It's your eternal soul, eternal being, divine. Your soul, and we're all connected. We all come from Creator. We're all the same. That's what we really are. And that's when they say, when we know that, when we reach that point, we will we will now realize what immense power we really have. And we are miracles. Our bodies are miracles that we have right now in this lifetime, and just everything inside us, our souls, our power, our divine power, that's miraculous, and so it's worth our effort to tap back into that. And that reminds me, I was going to say something about tapping, because I shared this with Catherine, that I found on Facebook a free seminar with one so-called world expert on tapping. So he wrote this book. Well, I guess it was actually a movie, but maybe also a book called The Tapping Solution, TAPPING. And I went on his free webinar the other day, and I was like, wow, this is so simple. I knew about it, but I never looked into it or anything. And the concept really becomes, well, first you have to work on why you are where you are. And he talks about a tree, and he talks about the tree, the roots. Those are your beliefs. Those are your core beliefs that you have within you, that really color your whole world, your life. And then the trunk of the tree is events that happen in your life, like you at the church and the man's saying something complimentary about you, and your father going, well, we don't want her to get a big head. What do you think that said to you, right? Maybe I'm not really beautiful, and I certainly can't focus on being beautiful, and so I don't want to get a big head because my dad said that, so I'm going to just stay kind of like average or whatever. And then you have the branches, which is, I'm forgetting now what that means, and then the leaves. So I think the branches are your emotions, and you know, the emotions are coming out of your beliefs and the events that happened in your life that were significant, and those are your core emotions. And I'm sorry, I forget what the leaves are. Let's think of something great, like maybe that's when you transform and breathe and change your life. But I'm starting to think about those things too, because when things are repetitive, like you being with a man that doesn't share himself, that comes from just patterns. That's like the dance that you enter each time. I read that about a family. They always have this dance, you know, start doing one little step and everybody goes, oh, I know the dance. I'm going to start stepping into the dance too. You know, I know the routine here. So we need to break free of that. And the only way we really can is to go back into those beliefs that we came from somewhere. I believe it came from events, and it could be karmic, it could be genetic, it could be within your family. So all that work is really valuable. And I wanted to say what has saved me and given me a lot of love about myself and knowledge is astrology. I've been studying it for decades and really got into it from all different levels, not just Western, but like, you know, fixed stars, looking at the North Node. I just love it, and I know myself, and you would know yourself too if you did astrology, because it's like psychology. It just explains you. And so anyway, I just want to share those two things, tapping and astrology, and knowing that you're a true divine being and that we're all here connected, and everything you feel, we feel too. And that's what we need to remember, you know. And so maybe that's part of the awe that we need to focus on. Otherwise disaster becomes us just in our separate worlds, not taking care of each other, not taking care of ourselves, and not really living this lifetime to the nth degree that we came here to do, you know, and not fulfilling our missions, because I think that will give us the purest joy. And I think you should keep that basset hound puppy for yourself. If he is that special, he's here for you, and you should hang on to him. He's your friend, and he's going to be there for you, and he wants to be here for you. So don't let him go. You know, listen to your heart. If your heart says this one is really special, then why not love yourself and keep that puppy for yourself? I hope you can. I want you to, you know. So anyway, I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Oh, since we're at the top of the hour, does everybody want to share just some final thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, whether you are looking at this verse or looking at Byron Katie's work, when you say to yourself, this should not be happening, regardless of what that is, whether there's too many people to talk to in a day, whether it's whatever birth defect you were born with, whatever set of circumstances, when you say to yourself, this should not be happening, there's a really simple fix to that suffering, and that is to ask the question, is that true? Because you cannot answer that is true. You're lying to yourself if you are. Because if it was not meant to be happening, it would not be happening. Everything is in God's hands. And it is all divine, the goods, the bads, all of it. Don't limit yourself. Don't label yourself. People suffer. You know, I don't mean in any way, Karen, to diminish your experiences. What I will say is that there are probably, I don't know, because now there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 volumes of the of psychiatric illnesses now, because they just keep making up new ones to sell pharmaceuticals. And I could probably fit into, I don't know, I'll take a guess, 50 of those, because I see spirits, so that's visual hallucinations. I hear spirits, that's audio, whatever. Like I have, I could be labeled with so many things, and if I had bought into that, I would have been institutionalized my whole life. And instead, I recognize those as the gifts that they are, and that whole system of mental illness, I think you're an empath, Karen. I think you're an empath picking up on the joys and the sorrows of the collective consciousness. I don't think you're bipolar. I don't think there's any such thing as bipolar. I think that they give us labels because they want us to think that we're ill instead of recognizing the power that we have, because if everybody recognized the power that we have, they wouldn't have control over us anymore. So I just, and to go back to Matt really quick, I love Matt because he says celebrate it all. And so many spiritual teachers, pretty much you have to just be a monk in a cave somewhere, to be, quote, spiritual or whatnot, or you have to be serene and calm all the time and never have anything trigger you, and that's a bunch of shit, and Matt says, celebrate it all. And if you're in a bitchy mood, you be the best bitch that you can be, and you be in all of your bitchiness, baby. And I love that, you can celebrate it all. And I love you, Karen, and I think you should keep that puppy too.
I love that. Matt Kahn, that's so much fun. I love listening to him because of that whole celebrate everything. Because if you sit there and you celebrate your bitchiness, you can't be bitchy anymore. You're just laughing your ass off. So, Sandy, did you have a final thought before we wrap?
I'm just remembering a moment this week that I need to celebrate my bitchiness for, so. No, I have this friend, like, we love each other so much, but sometimes, like, she'll ask 1,000 questions at once, and I'm, like, trying to answer them all, and I get, like, sort of aggravated and bitchy, because I'm like, like, stop asking me a million questions. Like, I didn't answer the first one yet. And I just see where I get in this, like bitchy mode with her sometimes. And then later in the day, I'll sort of think about it, like, why do I get so bitchy to her like that? I don't want to be bitchy to her, but whatever, I need to celebrate that bitchiness. Because I know she feels it too. And she's like, we sort of, she loves me anyway, so. Celebrate it all, yeah. And yeah, Matt Kahn, I get his emails, but I haven't read one in a while. I need to get back into that. I remember you sent me one of his stuff. It's been probably almost 2 years ago now, Catherine. But yeah, good stuff. So thanks for those reminders. And Marjorie, I love tapping too. It's something that has helped me a lot over the past few months. Like, yeah, if you just go on YouTube and type it in, there's so many videos to just help you through anything. So yeah, it's amazing work. It always shifts the energy for me. So thanks everyone for all your awesome sharings. And yeah, Karen, keep the dog, and we love you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate all the love I feel here. And if you listeners are on here now at the tail end, then think seriously about joining us. Please come on with us. We'd love to have you be with us, and obviously you're our kind if you stuck it out through now. Thanks.
So has your little Basset told you his or her name? Is it him or her?
My son names all these little poopies, and he comes up with the weirdest names, and for whatever reason, he just decided to call her Dottie. Well, I'd already been calling her Dolly. So I realized one day how confusing it must be that I say, "Let's go, Dolly," and then I say, how do you feel, Dottie?"
Probably sounds pretty much the same to her, but that's
That's true. What does she care?
Well, I mean, we give our kids nicknames that other than just their regular names, so I think with dogs, it's the same way. I mean, our dog is named Oscar and we call him O all the time, or Oz. And, I mean, those are completely different sounding, but he knows what we're talking about. He knows when we're addressing him. So, guys, this day, it has been an amazing chat. We could talk more and more. I had a bunch of thoughts come up when you were speaking, Marjorie. One thing I did remember of what I wanted to comment on, something you said earlier, is that whole the perspective of when we leave heaven, they're sad that we've left to come here, and when we are here and we leave this world, everybody's sad that we've left to go there. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective, because what if instead we just start celebrating? We celebrate coming here to see what this amazingness is, and then we celebrate going there to see what that amazingness is. I mean, if we just shift that perspective, and then we won't have anything to be sad about. Well, we would just be happy. I mean, that's what the goal is, right? We came here just to experience life and what it's like to be human, and it's all so amazing. And I hope that when I get to come here next, I get to experience what it's like to be a tree, or, the ocean, or who knows what. I don't know. Whatever it is, it'll be amazing. And also when you were talking about everything being one, I think that that's a huge thing. For me, I feel like my life has changed, and the people in my life have changed because of the work that I do. And who was mentioning the dance that we do with our families and friends? And okay, Margie, right? It was all in the same thought process. When we change the steps that we make in that dance, it changes everyone else's steps too. They don't have to even do the work. You can do the work, and things change in your life to change those people in the way that they react, because when just energy flows, right? You have this energy changes. When you change whatever way that you're pushing the energy, then it flows out in a different way, and they have no choice but to respond in a different way. It's not because they're trying not to, it just happens naturally. It's like with my husband and my relationship with him. We had this dynamic for years and years and years where it was just, I was unhappy in our relationship. And of course, all of it stemmed from the fact that I thought things should be a certain way and they weren't that way. And when I started to change my thoughts about that and embrace what was, then everything changed. Our relationship changed. The way that we love each other changes. It's all different now, and it's all because of the work that I did. He hasn't done that work. He listens in the background sometimes to our Saturday masterminds, but and I hear him repeating things sometimes to his friends when he's talking about stuff. So I know he listens, which is interesting. But it's fascinating because we have conversations, and I tell him what I'm learning. And I know that he doesn't fully understand it at the same level that I do, but when I go and I just change the way that I look at the world and be with the world, I can see that he does the same thing even without even trying. It's crazy, but I think it's because we're all connected, right? And I think that by, us coming here on this and we share our insights with each other, is that we help each other grow. And that's what this is all about. So anyway, guys, have an awesome, amazing, and wonderful weekend. We love you all. I love each one of you for participating in this today. And for those of you who are watching, there'll be links below this video so you can come and participate with us. And one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is that on that link where it's zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com, not only can you jump in and be a part of the conversation via video, if you don't want to do that, you can jump on via phone and just listen in and unmute yourself or mute yourself if you want to join in the conversation or not, so you can come on anonymously if you would like to. So anyway, look for those links below the video. Jump in our Facebook group. There'll be a link for that too. And that's it for today. So have a great weekend. Bye for now.